Back to Get Up. We go to Hollywood, where it's not only for the Oscars, it's for Luka to put on the performance of the night. Wait till you see these highlights. Luka here, Bulls up by 7. Luka hits the 3, and he is off and running. Luka Doncic would have an all-time evening. Look at this one here. Little floater from the foul line. Good.
Just extraordinary defense on Chicago's part.
Hey, Joe, come on. Defense was optional in this one, I will tell you that. Third quarter, watch this. LeBron takes it to the hole. Dunk. Lakers take a 7-point lead. Watch this one, though. Watch Luka, and look what he does here. He hits the 3, and he points to someone in the front row and just says, hey, that's for you, before it even goes in. Little pinky deal there with Reeves. I don't know what that is. I like it. Then Luka again. Bombs away. Good. Luka Doncic having an all-time performance from 3. Look at this one here. LeBron down the lane.
Ooh, a little spring in that step.
Lakers came into this game winning 3 straight, and they looked good on offense last night. Fourth quarter we go. 5 minutes left. Luka with the steal. Kind of jogs down court in transition. Push off a little bit. Bucket. Another for Luka. Lakers would go up by 18, and then crossover from deep. He was feeling it, guys. Another triple. Luka would score 51 points in this one. Nearly had a triple-double. And then you look at the Western Conference. The Lakers are in the 3 seed right now, with the Rockets, Nuggets, and T-Wolves all within a game slotted from the 3 to 7 spot. Just 2 games separate the Lakers from the 3 seed to the Suns, who are the 7 seed. And if you have to be the 7 seed, you're in that play-in tournament. Very interesting in the Western Conference. And with that, we bring in our NBA experts, Wendy and Monica. Wendy, why do the Lakers, and every team for that matter in the West, need that 3 seed so badly?
Yeah, if you're looking at a way for the Lakers to have a playoff run, it's going to be to get that 3. Number one, you'd have home court in the first round, which would, look, they had home court in the first round last year and lost. You got to still play good basketball, but home court in the first round of what's probably going to be a brutal series, and you get on the same side of the bracket probably as the Spurs. I have no idea that's going to go that way, and if you're choosing to be on the side of the Spurs or the Thunder, you're probably going to pick the Spurs because of their inexperience, and overall, they're a little bit not as deep as the Thunder. So that's where they want to go. The next 3 games, Peter, huge for the Lakers. Home against the Nuggets, who had a huge win last night, and then they leave on a 6-game road trip. The first 2 games of that trip in Houston. Teams all around them wanting to beat them. We're going to know a lot about the Lakers after the next 10 days.
Lakers and the Nuggets, the big Saturday night game. Monica, we go out to you. Stay out west, because the Nuggets, they did win a huge game, and Wemby didn't play, but they beat them 130.
Los Angeles. They're on a nice little, they're having a moment right now. They've won in a 3 in a row. So Chandler, they will finish in the West.
They will finish 6th in the West. I think
Whoa.
they get in the playoffs, but I do think Denver and Minnesota are more complete, solid teams. I think they will finish. I think they're half game or a game ahead of them. A lot of basketball to be played left, so I think they'll finish right in that 6th spot, but will avoid the play-in this year.
Right, they're dropping. Anybody else have a different one, or
I got
people
5th.
have them dropping?
Fifth was my initial, but I don't mind 6 either.
Okay, Boogie.
Same 5th, 6th range.
Dang.
Leaning
Okay.
more towards 6.
Fair enough. Lou, you'll start this one. The Lakers will make it to the what round in the playoffs?
They will make it to the first round of the playoffs. Right now the matchups are the matchups. They got some things to figure out on the defensive end before I give them my wave over seeing Denver or Minnesota in the first round. Right now, with the way that things are trending, I like those teams' chances better at this moment, so I would say first round.
All right, that's depressing. It's going to be a very long summer out here. Boogie, you're up next. Luka Doncic will be what team All-NBA?
I'm going to go 2nd just because of, the team's success. I can't put him over Cade Cunningham. I can't put him over Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Shea. I'm going to go 2nd team.
2nd team.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah?
I'm going to say first. It's just hard for me to ignore a guy averaging 30.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's going to lead the league in scoring and not putting on first team, but who's he going to make it over? Jaylen Brown or Cade Cunningham? Like, it's tough. So I like second.
No can do. All right, second, nothing to sneeze at. I love this
I'm
one.
going
Chandler,
first,
I'm
though.
giving you this one because you love Luka so much. Luka will win how many championships with the Lakers?
I don't see them getting past. I don't see them getting past OKC and San Antonio anytime soon. I really don't. So, and unless they draw like Houston in the playoffs first round this year, I think they're a first round exit, like Lou said. So, I don't want to say zero because they are the Lakers and they can add God knows who each summer at the trade deadline because they are Los Angeles and everyone will want to come play here at some point. So, to say zero seems a little bit harsh, but
You can say zero.
I'm going to say
on the board.
zero. He's also, how many years is he going to be? This is such a broad question, Beads.
No, it's not. The answer is zero. We were looking for zero. Thank you.
Zero or one? Zero or one, just because you just don't know who they're going to add, how long he's going to be there.
Man, answer the question. Which one?
Say it's
a hard
zero or
question.
not.
It's a hard question.
This is the Los Angeles Lakers. They're going to put pieces around Luka. They're going to always put
One.
themselves in a position to bring in star power. I'm going one.
Yeah.
I'm going
And
one
he's-
as well. And I think that's a bit of a reach and this is no knock to Luka, but when you think about the OKCs, you think about the young Spurs group. I don't know how
Be
much
tough.
you could add to a Luka to, surpass that group of talent. So I'll go one.
So
as
well.
well.
Okay. You guys
I'll
are,
go
you know
one.
what? Fine.
I'm one.
Okay, well, I'm on the record as zero, so it's a 75% for one. Got it. For the only one I have an opinion on. All right, next
He
up,
could be
Spurs.
there. He could be there
Of
for
a 50-point
8 more years.
triple-double. He joins the club. Kobe Bean did it 25 times. LeBron 3, Shaq 2, AD 2, and then you see the rest. Said, AR, and Luka. Luka has done it now 8 times in his career. He did it with 9 threes, which gives him 208 on the season. So with 16 games left, he's chasing D'Lo now, who is the single season leader at 226. So he's all but assured to pass that if he keeps up at this rate. Really incredible big game. The way he set the tone, he found his 3 ball, 9 for 14 from deep.
Yeah, Gita, he's the metal up lemon of the Lakers. He gets it going for everybody, He's just a phenomenal and controls the pace of the game and, dictate what the defense does a lot of times, the way he navigates and all in first gear. You hardly ever see him get out of first or second gear and he's able to get his shots off and make passes. Just a phenomenal player. I've seen some great players in my career. He's one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he scored, 46 the last time the Lakers played?
Yeah, can I tell you what he's done in the 2 games against the Bulls, Fish? 107 points.
Yeah.
21 assists and 17 rebounds.
Yeah.
That's in 2 games against the Bulls.
It's almost like it's like 2 fighters in a boxing match, and like one guy knows like he's just better than the other guy. He can't get a jab in. He can't get a.
That group had a negative net rating, and there was a lot of talk about can that group play together. Well, no Marcus Smart tonight. Rui's back in that starting lineup, and here's what they did. They all were in double figures. Rui, 6 of 10, 3 of 5 from 3 for 15 points. He was efficient. LeBron in his return, 7 of 13 for 18 points. Austin Reeves continues to be on a heater. He was 13 of 20 for 30. And how about DA? 23 points on 10 of 13. He had 10 rebounds, 6 of those offensive. Pretty special night for the starters right there. 137 of the 142 points.
Yeah, that's got to go in the record book somewhere. The
Fourth
Chicago
highest total.
Bulls,
Wow.
you get that, but I still love the activity of Ayton early in the game. All these guys were very active. Luka, Austin Reeves, obviously, but Rui and Ayton, I think, are going to be key down the stretch. And I like what Ayton did tonight early in the game. 6 offensive rebounds. They've been trending this way. And then LeBron coming in and, figuring out how to play and make this trio better when they're on the floor together. So at this time of the year, but they're starting to get it and play accordingly.
Man, there were two of our years in the three-peat era, 2001, 2002. And there was a stretch where Shaq and Kobe was going to score 75 or 80 points.
Combined every night.
Combined every night. And the rest of us just had to score 50 or 40 or 50 between like 8 other dudes. And that's what it looked like tonight.
Yeah.
Like Luka and Austin had 81. And then the other guys, you know, pitching in with 13, 12, 18. And worked out then. I don't know if you can get away with that now, but that's what those numbers reminded me of.
Yeah, you see the single game since 82-83 with a starting lineup. The Pistons in 83 out of 142, the Nuggets in 83 out of 142. And then you skip ahead a couple of decades, the Suns in 2006 with 138. And then, you know, skip ahead 20 years, and it's the Lakers tonight with 137 from their starting 5. Very impressive. I do want to talk LeBron, you guys, because he did return. And Fish, I'm going to start with you. I thought he played a really smart basketball game. LeBron came in that first quarter, couple rebounds, couple of assists, didn't even take a shot. And then you just saw him kind of get his rhythm. And how did he get a couple of those? Offensive rebounds, going down low in the block, fades, couple of dunks in transition. Just vintage LeBron. You look at his stat line, only took 13 shots, 18, 7, and 7.
You're talking about fighting, prize fighters. He's been in every competition you could ever be in. And you know, sometimes early you're getting a feel for your opponent. I thought tonight to start, what was most important for him was just getting his conditioning back, getting his legs and his body accustomed to playing in the game again. And think about this. The one person that has scored the most points in the history of NBA basketball literally tried not to score a point in the first quarter.
45,000.
Like, and so the lesson in that for all players of every level is like every night is different. And tonight was not a night where statistically he needed to jump off the page, even though he ended up with 18, 7, and 7.
Yeah.
It was more about how do I get myself back where I can play at a high level, but it's all about the team. And he did what he needed to do tonight to make sure the team got a win, and he can continue to get better and prepare as they get ready for the postseason.
It's genius, you know, genius over his career, what he's been able to do. And his last 3 games, he's been sitting in over the bench, observing and watching what these guys are doing. After some, they were still trying to get it together, but yeah, I love what he did tonight. You know, he came in.
Just how did that go physically? How'd you feel in your first game back in a little bit?
I felt pretty good. You know, definitely been taking care of my body, obviously, over, you know, last week, I guess. Yeah, week. I haven't played since the Denver game, but was able to nurse a couple of things and get ready for the night.
You've always talked about you've kind of made your game so that you can apply your skills to whatever is needed on that given team. What have you seen from this team, not just this year, but like this last week, to feel like, okay, when you come back, maybe there are certain parts of your game you focus a little bit more on than others, if that's the case? Well,
I mean, obviously, like you said, I'm able to adapt to whatever needs from the team. And with Jackson, with Maxey being out, two of our really good screen setters, and Jack's one of our best rollers. So I feel like that's a void that I could implement myself into to help the team. You know, while Jackson's out, Maxey's out. So just try to do that, allow AR and Luka to continue on the things that they've been doing, obviously, with ball handling, scoring, pick and roll play, and then, you know, just trying to help with the glass, continue to, I mean, I'm always pass the ball, so I'm not worried about that, and should be a little bit more active.
JJ termed it sacrificed by you playing this role. Does it feel like sacrifice, or is it kind of catering your game in a way that can, you know, benefit others?
I mean, benefit others, benefit the team. I mean, the team is most important. You know, everybody's successful when we win. So, yeah, it is some sacrifice. I know what I'm capable of still doing as an individual, but what's important for this team, I'm able to adapt to what's important for this team, and that's the only thing that matters, and the win is the only thing that matters.
What did you see from watching this team the last 3 games, especially against New York and Minnesota, where you were like, once I get back out there, I know exactly what I can do in a game?
I just think we played good basketball, obviously. I mean, before even tonight, we won our last 6 out of 7, so only just the previous 2 games, but we've just been playing complimentary basketball. Like I said, it's been AR and Luka has been obviously offensively been magical and dynamic. But, you know, the rest of the guys, their energy and their effort, you know, DA has been unbelievable as of late. Obviously, M-Dot was out tonight, but Marcus has been great. Everybody was getting an opportunity, you know, just been playing at a high level. And like you said, that Knick game and Minnesota game was just a bit of it.
You guys, you can't win
championships or playoff series in the middle of March, but I'm just curious, like, how encouraging are you by some of the habits and the consistency?
Yeah, you can build habits, though, like you just said. You can build habits, you can build chemistry, you can build a way how you want to play when it comes to the postseason. So, every game matters, and the way that you approach the game matters, and the details of approaching every night.
Have you seen that focus tick up here, like that every game type of focus?
I mean, it's mid-March. Postseason is in a month, so it has to be.
Ron, you posted something on your Instagram recently. It was a quote, and it said, "Everything is a win when the goal is to experience." Wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on why that resonated with you, and if that's a mindset that you've had throughout your...
Yeah, that's just a mindset. I mean, it's just a mindset, and it's something that when I read it was pretty cool, and I thought about just being in the moment of experiencing things.
Why is that experience, I guess, more important than the tally at the end of the day? Like, what do you personally, it feels like you're someone who's able to sort of live in the moment and focus on the moment at hand. Like, why has that been important to you, I guess, in your career?
Well, I mean, I think as you get older, you appreciate the moment more than anything. I think when you're younger, you're thinking about what you've done in the past or what's to come in the future. But the only thing that we know for sure that's happening is the moment. When you get older, you appreciate those things. Having a big family, having my 3 kids, appreciating those moments every time I'm with them, or appreciating the time I spend with my mother and time with my wife, and so you start to appreciate a little bit more of the moments because you just become older, you become a little bit more wise, So I think
praising you for your 5,000 points, Austin, and as we know, you're not going to accept this type of talk about yourself at all. So let's just get it out of the way and do a quick short answer.
Yeah, Luka had a good game. We thought we played good as a team. Yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of what I expected, yeah. Okay, I'll ask you about Luka then. So the points have been coming at specifically like high frequency, and the efficiency has been up there for him. I think since the All-Star break, he's shooting 42% on 11 threes a game at that high volume. And how much have you seen him grow with a rhythm, and how much does that continue to unlock things for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's our best player, and when he plays like that, we're tough to guard because, his ability to make shots, and not just that, but pass the ball as well. He picks apart defenses, and pretty good player. And, he needs to continue to do that for us. We expect him to do that. Obviously not score 51 every night, but the type of player he is, he can get hot after seeing one shot go in, and they've been going in for him. So we continue to encourage him to shoot them.
We saw LeBron doing things like setting a bunch of screens tonight, playing along the baseline, just defense, kind of doing big athlete stuff. Saw a lot of that too last year after you guys acquired Luka. What JJ called it sacrifice, but he's able to kind of do what is needed. What did you make of that, and how key could that be as you get down the stretch here?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the smartest guys to ever play the game of basketball. So his ability to adapt and to figure out what the game needs is second to none. I think that, like you said, he was in a couple, ball screens where he got behind the defense, was able to finish. He got a couple offensive rebounds. I think one for an and one. But yeah, just, when you got a player of that stature is willing to, play the way that the game needs him to play, it just shows how selfless he is, and just is a leader by example for everybody in this locker room.
We caught on camera you guys have a new handshake. You guys were pinky swearing.
I don't know where that came from either. We've been doing it all year, actually. Really? Yeah, I think it started in Milwaukee or somewhere. It was early. Half the time, me and Em are too tired to even do anything, so we just walk by each other. But yeah, we've been doing that for a while.
Who came up with that one?
I think it just happened randomly. I think I seen him do something else with somebody, then I was just messing with him, and it kind of stuck.
Austin, I remember a moment from I think it was your second season, maybe here in the locker room, where LeBron was like, "You're a star, man." It was like after you had a big performance, and I remember you saying, "Fake it till you make it." Are you starting to feel more comfortable, like embodying the fact that you're a star with capital S?
Nah, not really, to be honest with you. It still feels weird. I obviously have delusional confidence in myself when it comes to basketball. But when game's over and I kind of go home and think about it, don't really think of myself in the category of some of these other guys. But I just enjoy playing basketball, playing the right way, and continuing to try to get better. But I'd rather just stay low key and hang out by myself.
But doesn't being great at other sports make you believe that more? You're great at baseball as a kid. You're great at golf now. Like, it's kind of hard to deny it.
Said I was great at baseball.
I interviewed you your rookie year, and you guys won every state championship and regional championship when you were a kid.
We were all right. We had a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good team. A solid golfer. I have a decent ability to play sports. Luca can't beat me in bowling.
There we go.
Y'all need to ask him about that. Hand-eye coordination. My parents, genetics were really good. Me and my brother both. Played ping pong, all that. So I just love to compete and play different sports.
There are nights when professional basketball stops being a sport and becomes something closer to a controlled detonation, where every storyline, every historical argument, every organizational tension, and every individual human achievement decides simultaneously and without coordination to arrive at the same address at the same time. And what happened between Thursday evening at Crypto.com Arena and Friday morning across the rest of the league was precisely that kind of night. The kind that makes calendar dates feel significant in retrospect. The kind that people will reference in conversations years from now with the casual certainty of someone who was there and understood what they were watching as it unfolded. A man scored 51 points while conducting what can only be described as a prolonged and methodical act of public humiliation against someone who apparently did not consult recent history before deciding to open his mouth. A 41-year-old returned from injury and spent his first quarter back on the floor doing something so uncharacteristic of everything he has ever been that it became the most interesting thing he has done all season. An undrafted player from a small town in Arkansas quietly stepped into a conversation that had been dormant since the era of black and white photographs and leather balls in arenas without air conditioning. Somewhere in Miami, a head coach walked to a podium, looked directly into the cameras, and delivered a statement about a historic scoring performance so blunt and so unambiguous that it immediately became the most quoted thing anyone said anywhere in professional basketball on Thursday, while Kobe Bryant's legacy hung over every syllable of it. And looming over all of it, arriving Saturday night like a structural examination that cannot be postponed, is the one opponent this particular Lakers team has the least business facing right now, which raises a question nobody inside that organization is fully prepared to answer. If that did not just pull you completely forward in your seat, hit that like button right now, because every single one of those threads is about to be pulled to its full length, and not one of them resolves the way the easy version of the story would suggest. Because here is what makes Thursday genuinely different from the dozens of memorable nights this season has already produced, and it is worth saying clearly before diving into the individual pieces. Every single one of these storylines is connected to the others in ways that compound their significance rather than simply adding to it. The Lakers won a game while simultaneously revealing that their most dangerous structural problem has not been solved, only temporarily masked by a scoring performance historic enough to make the final score look comfortable when the underlying defensive reality was anything but. A man who has been averaging 32 points per game since January, playing at a level that the MVP conversation has been systematically undervaluing in favor of more established narratives, finally got a night spectacular enough that even the people who have been looking the other way are going to have difficulty explaining their continued indifference. A contract worth $250 million suddenly looks different after the holder of that contract does something that connects him to the very first superstar in the history of the franchise. A link so ancient and so unexpected that the statisticians who uncovered it probably had to double-check their sources. A defensive crisis that had been quietly managed during 3 games of two-man basketball exploded back into full view the moment the third star returned, suggesting that the problem was never really managed at all, but merely hidden behind circumstances that will not repeat themselves in a playoff series. And somewhere in all of that, a scoring record that millions of people believed was sacred was permanently altered by a man nobody had on their list, defended by a coach who apparently does not own a single diplomatic bone in his body, and received by a specific fan base with the kind of emotional reaction that tells you the number 81 meant considerably more than a basketball statistic to the people who cared about it most. All of that happened in roughly 18 hours. And Saturday night, a 3-time MVP averaging a triple-double for the season is arriving at Crypto.com Arena to test whether any of it actually means anything when the competition gets real. Let us start at the beginning. The first thing LeBron James did upon returning to the Lakers lineup on Thursday night, after missing 3 games with a right hip contusion and arthritis in his left foot, was absolutely nothing. And that nothing was arguably the most sophisticated basketball decision he made all evening. He attempted 0 field goals in the first quarter. His only first half points arrived on a layup and a subsequent free throw with 54 seconds remaining before the halftime buzzer. A 3-point contribution that placed him statistically below Yuki Kawamura for the first 24 minutes of the game, which is a sentence that would have seemed like science fiction 12 months ago. He set screens. He relocated without the ball. He accepted defensive assignments that were difficult and unglamorous and entirely invisible to the kind of casual observer who evaluates LeBron's performance by counting possessions where the ball ends in his hands. He locked in on the defensive end to compensate for Marcus Smart's absence due to a hip injury, accepting the accountability of covering for a short-handed frontcourt that was also missing Jackson Hayes and Maxi Kleber, which meant the defensive burden was distributed across a group with very little margin for positional error. The approach in those first 24 minutes was disciplined, deliberate, and almost certainly the product of a conscious conversation with himself about what this team needed from him on this particular night, which was not LeBron James as the gravitational center of the offensive universe, but LeBron James as the intelligent and complementary piece that the two-man operation had been functioning without for 3 games and 7 wins out of 8. The third quarter told the fuller story, as it almost always does with a player whose competitive instincts have been operating at this level for more than 2 decades. Because James contributed 11 points in that period, including a dunk off a hit-ahead pass from Doncic that the entire arena responded to physically, followed immediately by a diving out-of-bounds steal and save on the very next possession that led directly to a Doncic three-pointer, a sequence so perfectly timed and so clearly the product of 2 players who understand each other's movement that it looked choreographed rather than improvised. He finished with 18 points total. Doncic called the chemistry between the two of them and Reeves over the last several games magical. And James, describing his own approach to the return, was characteristically unadorned in his assessment of what the night required. He focused on the screens. He focused on the defense. He let Luka cook. The problem, and this is where the night becomes considerably more complicated than a comfortable 4-game winning streak would suggest, is what happened on the other end of the floor when all 3 stars were on the court together. the Lakers surrendered 130 points to the Chicago Bulls, a franchise that sent its best players away at the trade deadline and is currently operating with the strategic priorities of an organization auditioning for lottery positioning rather than playoff seeding. Chicago shot 53.7% from the field. The Bulls scored 32 or more points in 3 of the 4 quarters. The defensive breakdowns that had been largely absent during the 3-game stretch without LeBron, the missed assignments, the abandoned rotations, the zero ball pressure, the surrendered layups at the rim against guards who should not be finishing over the top of an NBA defense, returned in comprehensive and almost immediate fashion the moment the 3-star lineup took the floor together. JJ Redick stood at the post-game podium and delivered perhaps the most honest and least diplomatic assessment of his own team's performance that a coach can offer after a victory, stating without qualification that he wished there was something he could praise about the defense, but that he was simply not going to be able to do that. That sentence, delivered after a win, in the middle of a 4-game winning streak, in front of cameras broadcasting to a fan base that wants to believe this team has figured something out, represents the kind of coaching candor that is either admirable or alarming, depending on how much time remains in the regular season and how quickly the problem can be addressed. The answer to that question, by the way, is not much time and genuinely unclear respectively, and the game arriving Saturday night is going to make both of those realities impossible to avoid. Now, the reason the Lakers were able to win this particular game, despite a defensive performance that Redick had no complimentary words for, was a 51-point night from Luka Doncic that deserves far more analytical attention than it is going to receive. Because the basketball conversation is currently so saturated with the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander MVP narrative and the residual gravity of the Bam Adebayo situation, that a 51-point, 10-rebound, 9-assist performance with 9 made threes on 72.9 true shooting percentage is going to get compressed into a highlight package and a couple of social media posts when it genuinely warrants something closer to a structured argument about who the best offensive player in basketball is right now. The origin story of the 51 points begins with a conversation that nobody fully witnessed, but whose consequences were visible for the next 48 minutes. Matas Buzelis, the 21-year-old Chicago forward who had scored 41 points 2 nights earlier against Golden State and arrived at Crypto.com Arena with the confidence of someone riding genuine momentum, apparently said something to Doncic during the early portions of the game that activated whatever internal mechanism Doncic has for converting disrespect into scoring output. The response was not angry. It was methodical, theatrical, and sustained across all 4 quarters in a way that suggested Doncic was less interested in silencing Buzelis and more interested in making the entire experience as instructionally humiliating as possible. He hit a one-legged mid-range fadeaway over Buzelis and pointed at him. He drained a 3-pointer over Buzelis a minute later and turned to look at him while retreating on defense. He used an 8-and screen to get past Buzelis and finished a left-handed finger roll off the backboard with a gesture in the young forward's direction. He pointed at Buzelis after a pull-up jumper when Buzelis was standing at the scorer's table waiting to check in. He pointed at Buzelis after makes when Buzelis was not even on the floor. Austin Reeves positioned a few feet away from all of this with the studied composure of someone who has accepted that life around Luka Doncic involves witnessing things that cannot always be explained. Offered the most accurate available summary of the experience. It's fun, and it's funny at the same time, because half the time I don't even know what the hell he's saying. Buzelis reflecting afterward with the self-awareness of someone who paid a very specific tuition for a very specific lesson, offered his own summary in 7 words. Probably not to talk to him. The final numbers were 51 points, 17 of 31 from the field, 9 of 14 from 3. And this was Doncic's 8th career 50-point game, his 13th 40-point performance in 82 appearances for Los Angeles, placing him 9th in franchise history in that category. Since the 1st of January, Doncic has been shooting 40.4% from three-point range on 10.4 attempts per game. On that identical volume of attempts over the same stretch, Stephen Curry is shooting 38.4%. That comparison, offered without additional commentary, is the kind of data point that rearranges people's assumptions about hierarchy. And JJ Redick made it clear after the game that he intends to keep making the case publicly until the MVP conversation catches up with what the numbers are actually saying. Thinking carefully about where the award discussion stands right now and what the performance record actually reflects since January, it feels increasingly difficult to construct a credible argument that the right answer is not the man who just scored 51 points in a season-high performance while simultaneously setting the tone for a 4-game winning streak. But the basketball media has a way of moving slowly when the narrative momentum is already pointed somewhere else. Within the same game where Doncic was busy rewriting his individual record book, Austin Reeves was quietly doing something that required going all the way back to the prehistoric era of professional basketball to find a comparable precedent within this specific franchise. Reeves crossed the 5,000 career points threshold on Thursday night, and the significance of that number is not just the number itself, but what the historical search for context reveals about how rare an achievement it actually is among players who wore the Lakers uniform. Only 46 players in the entire history of the NBA have reached 5,000 career points with a single franchise, which is already a small and distinguished company. But within the Los Angeles Lakers organization specifically, the only previous player to reach that milestone was George Mikan, the Minneapolis Lakers center who played professional basketball in the late 1940s and early 1950s, and dominated the sport so thoroughly and so completely that the league had to physically restructure its rules to create any competitive balance around him. Mikan averaged 23.1 points and 13.4 rebounds per game across 7 NBA seasons, won 5 championships with Minneapolis, and was named by the Associated Press as the greatest basketball player of the first half of the 20th century, a designation that felt appropriate for a man whose name alone was sufficient marquee content at Madison Square Garden, where upcoming games were promoted simply as Geo McCann vs. Knicks, because the building's management correctly calculated that no further information was required to sell tickets. The lane was widened from 6 feet to 12 feet, specifically because of him. The shot clock was indirectly influenced by teams' desperate tactical attempts to keep the ball away from him. He was, in every meaningful sense, the first player in professional basketball history about whom the sport had to ask itself what the rules actually were supposed to protect. And between McCann finishing his career in Minneapolis and Reeves crossing 5,000 points in Los Angeles, through the Showtime Lakers and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar era, and the Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant championships, and the Pau Gasol supporting acts, and every purple and gold player who contributed to every iteration of this franchise across 8 decades of professional basketball. Not a single Lakers player had reached that number before Reeves did it on Thursday, while being entirely overshadowed by Doncic's 51 points on the same floor in the same game. The historical resonance of that connection is not trivial. It is a statement about what an undrafted player from Newark, Arkansas has become inside one of the most storied organizations in American professional sports, and it provides a layer of institutional context to the $240 million contract discussion that goes considerably deeper than current performance metrics alone. Now, completely removed geographically from Los Angeles, but impossible to disentangle emotionally from Lakers history and Lakers fandom, the situation involving Bam Adebayo and his 83-point game against the Washington Wizards on Tuesday evening has graduated overnight from a scoring record into a full-scale philosophical argument about what basketball records mean, whether the circumstances of their achievement affect their legitimacy, and whether a head coach owes the broader sport any form of accountability for the competitive decisions he makes in the fourth quarter of a blowout win. Erik Spoelstra arrived at a podium in Miami on Thursday and answered all of those questions with a clarity and a completeness that left very little room for continued debate. Or at least very little room for debate that he personally felt obligated to participate in. I apologize to absolutely no one, period. He said he would make the same decisions 10 times out of 10 without modification. He noted with a precision that his critics probably did not anticipate that most of the people generating the sharpest commentary had not actually watched the game. And he described that particular form of criticism as unethical, which was a rhetorical choice elegant enough that it is worth pausing to appreciate. The substance of the criticism centers on the final minutes of Adebayo's performance, during which the Heat deliberately fouled Washington players to extend possessions and create additional scoring opportunities for Adebayo to cross Kobe Bryant's 81-point mark. A strategy that the Wizards coach Brian Keefe described in his own post-game comments as not a real basketball game, and that CBS Sports characterized as an affront to the sport. Sam Amick of The Athletic reported that people connected to Bryant's legacy were not satisfied with the way the record was approached. The Nuggets' David Adelman, for context, told reporters he had no problem with what Spoelstra did, describing it as genuinely cool when a player gets to 70 points and the competitive pursuit of history becomes the organizing principle of the remaining minutes. What tends to get lost in the ethical debate, and what Spoelstra pointed out with appropriate emphasis, is that Adebayo had 31 points in the first quarter, 43 at halftime, and 62 through 3 quarters. None of which involved any of the late-game maneuvering that critics have focused on, and all of which came against a Washington defense that was fully assembled and fully engaged before the fourth quarter arrived, and the historical arithmetic became impossible to ignore. The first intentional foul by the Heat occurred with 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining in the game. Adebayo already had 76 points at that moment. For the Lakers fanbase in particular, the number 81 carried a weight that extended far beyond its statistical content. Bryant's 81-point game against Toronto in 2006 had functioned as a kind of organizational sacred object, an achievement so singular and so permanently identified with the most beloved player in franchise history that many people around the league genuinely believed it would stand as the modern benchmark indefinitely. Not because no one would ever score 81 again, but because the specific combination of context, opponent, circumstance, and player identity that produced it seemed essentially irreproducible. The fact that it was surpassed not by a generational scorer like Curry or Doncic or Kevin Durant, but by a center whose career scoring average entering Tuesday was 16.1 points per game, whose previous season high was 32 points, and who was not selected for the All-Star game last month, made the moment feel, to the people who cared about Bryant's legacy most, almost aggressively wrong in a way that no amount of contextualizing about free throw attempts quite resolves. Kendrick Perkins put the emotional logic of that reaction into precise language. Adebayo would not have appeared on his list of the top 50 players capable of breaking the record, and that unexpectedness is exactly the mechanism by which the achievement cuts deepest for the people it cuts. The number is in the books. The debate will continue well past the point where everyone involved has grown tired of having it. And Spoelstra, standing at that Miami podium with the composure of a man who has won 2 championships and coached some of the most publicly scrutinized basketball of the past 2 decades, communicated with complete clarity that the debate is one he is not losing any sleep over, which delivers everything. All of the winning and the defensive disasters and the historical milestones and the scoring records and the coaching defiance to Saturday night at Crypto.com Arena, where the Los Angeles Lakers will host the Denver Nuggets in a game that functions as something considerably more significant than a regular season Western Conference matchup with playoff seeding implications, even though it is also precisely that. Nikola Jokic is averaging 28.7 points, 12.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists per game this season, which is a full triple-double average, which means that the best player in the world by any conventional statistical measurement is arriving at a building whose home team just surrendered 130 points to a team that is actively trying to lose. Coached by a staff whose head coach admitted after the game that he could not find a single praiseworthy element in his team's defensive performance. The Nuggets won the most recent meeting between these two teams on March 6th by a score of 120-113, with Jokic scoring 28 points and Doncic contributing 27 in a losing effort. And that game established the basic competitive dynamic that Saturday will re-examine at what should be closer to full strength for both rosters. Aaron Gordon is listed as day-to-day with a hamstring concern, and his availability remains uncertain, while Peyton Watson remains definitively out with his own hamstring issue, so Denver will be without at least one and possibly both of the athletic and versatile defensive wings that make their system genuinely difficult to attack in isolation. But Jokic operating at full capacity is a sufficient competitive instrument to neutralize almost any personnel advantage the opposition brings. And the history between these two franchises in high-stakes situations does not incline toward optimism for the purple and gold. The Lakers are 41-25, sitting third in the Western Conference after climbing from 6th place in a single week on the back of 4 consecutive wins. The momentum is real and earned and meaningful. The defensive crisis is equally real, equally earned through performance, and equally meaningful in terms of what it implies about the limits of what this roster can achieve when the competition reaches a level that a rebuilding Chicago team cannot represent. Saturday night, those two realities are going to occupy the same 48 minutes, with the best passing big man in the history of the sport standing between the Lakers and whatever conclusion they want to draw about who they actually are and what they are genuinely capable of when the degree of difficulty matches the size of the ambition.